Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. I'm out of breath right now. Why am I out of breath? Well, an Amazon package was just delivered at my house, and I had to run down and get it while my co-host, and my guest were sitting here waiting for me. So I ran up the stairs, ran down the stairs, ran up the stairs, and now I can't breathe, and that's why I'm out of breath. But I did bring somebody here today that can speak a lot. I was going to say she's full of hot air, but she's not. She's full of great insights and amazing intelligence, and she's incredible, and you'll know her by this sound. Here she is again, Dr. Michelle Cantu Wilson. She is Director of Teaching and Learning Initiatives and Special Projects at San Jacinto College. Michelle, what's happening?
Making a quick observation, Joe, you might want to, up the cardio if going up and down the stairs for an Amazon package has you winded and full of hot air.
No, sir.
That's a suggestion.
No, sir.
Yes, I probably will do that. But you know what? I was so concerned to get back and get on the microphone with you, Michelle, because it's been a bit. I feel like
It's been a while.
Disappeared on me. You were co-hosting, you were here, and then you disappeared, maybe to service students, maybe because you just got tired of the air horn. I don't know which, but you're back.
It was post-traumatic air horn recovery that I was dealing with. You know how this semester has been. You've talked to so many people across the US and even internationally. And so, this semester has been especially trying. But as I said on my IG message the other day, I'm plugged back in. I'm catching up on episodes. I am here again. And I'm so happy to be back. You've been doing great work, Joe. Really great work.
Well, thank you, Michelle. You're the best. And I'm so glad that you're back. You've been doing some great work too. I saw you. You're down in Texas at there was a Latino conference down there. It looked like you and your buddy, this Daniel Villanueva, isn't that his name? We were supposed to interview him here, and I saw you guys in pictures. And I follow your work, just for the record. So you've been doing some cool stuff. You've been getting around and actually seeing people in person at conferences. How has that been?
Oh gosh, it was amazing. So Daniel and I have, like you mentioned, he's supposed to be on eventually. But Daniel and I have a little YouTube show called Latinx Learners, where we discuss what it's like to be first-gen students or first-gen practitioners in higher ed, and also Latino practitioners. There are not very many of us. So we needed this show to help ourselves and others to navigate through this space. And then TACHE, the Texas Association of Chicanos in Higher Education, had their state conference. And that was an amazing in-person experience. We got to hear great research, have a lot of fun, and then end the conference with a baile, a big old dance that we call the tacheton, where we had a DJ and just had fun hanging with our friends. Yeah, and I'm the Gulf Coast region president for TACHE, and that's going to be a lot of fun this year coming up. So,
what's that name of that YouTube series again, Michelle?
Latinx Learners.
Check it out, peeps. Check it out. You heard it from Michelle herself, air horn and all. We have an amazing guest for you today. I'm really excited to talk to her. She's got a lot of insight, and she's here. I don't know if she's ready for what's about to happen here on the EdUp Experience, but she's there anyway. Dr. Nicole Gibbs. Oh, wait a minute. Let me try that again. Here she comes. Let me do it properly. Dr. Nicole Gibbs. She's Senior Director, External Engagement, College Readiness and Assessments at the College Board. Nicole, what is happening?
Hi, Joe. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here and have this chat with you all today.
Now, would you prefer the air horn or the applause?
I really enjoyed the applause, actually.
Oh. Yeah, Michelle always asks for the applause. However, it will never happen. Air horn all the way. Nicole, level set for us, College Board. For those that haven't heard of the College Board before, which I would find hard to believe, what do you guys do? How do you do it? And talk a little bit about what your role is.
Yeah, absolutely. So College Board is a mission-driven, not-for-profit organization, and we connect students to college success and opportunity. We've been around for quite a while, since 1900, actually, and we were created to expand access really to higher education. Today, the membership association is made up of over 6,000 of the world's leading educational institutions, and we're dedicated to promoting excellence and equity in education. Each year, We help more than 7 million students to prepare for a successful transition to college through programs and services in college readiness, and as well as, yeah, it is amazing, and college success, including obviously the SAT, advanced placement program, and also BigFuture. So in total, we serve the education community through research and advocacy, of course, on behalf of students, educators, and schools. So that's just a bit about the org. In terms of my role, I am responsible for working with our external stakeholders in a number of ways. Really, it's sort of a two-way conversation. I'm sharing information out, also asking for their feedback and input on different services that we offer, what their experiences are like either in the classroom or in higher ed spaces, particularly in admissions, enrollment management. And I have the pleasure of also participating in exciting conversations such as this one today. So that's a little bit about my role.
I love the way you ended that, for the record. Well done. So, the SAT and ACT piece is really interesting lately because of the test optional, because of there was a school literally recently that just instituted, it might have been MIT or something. They just put the SATs and ACTs back in. They took off the optional, and you see a lot of schools dropping the SAT and ACTs. What is that doing to the college landscape for students? Because it can be confusing. Do I need it? Do I not need it? How do I move from place to place? And what research is being done? Can you talk about that? Because that's been a key issue. I know for me, as I've transitioned to a new role at Lindenwood University in Missouri, it's come up a bunch. And I know that there are a lot of colleges dealing with it. What do you see happening right now?
You're absolutely correct. And it was MIT. So I think what we know for sure is that test optional is here to stay. And that is certainly something that is not lost on us as an organization. We get that. Colleges, though, have always used the SAT as one part of their holistic admission process. And so when it's kind of viewed within that context of where a student lives and learns, test scores can confirm a student's grades, also help them with scholarships, and really help them to demonstrate their strengths beyond what their high school grades may show. So with colleges at all levels making test scores optional, a student's test scores can help them continue to really underscore what they're learning in the classroom. What we've learned is students, by and large, 83% of students that we've surveyed still want the option to be able to make the choice as to whether they share that test score with a college or university if it is a test optional situation. And so for us, we understand that the landscape is clearly changing. We want to still be a portion of how colleges and universities evaluate students, but we understand that it is not the only measure. We understand that it is a holistic process. And so we have kind of taken the position that, students are allowed to share all of the factors that they feel showcase their strengths. And we don't believe they should be denied the choice to do that with a test score that they feel shows what they can do. So that's kind of the stance that we've taken as an organization regarding test optional.
Yeah, I've never, if somebody didn't perform very well on my tests, just for the record, I feel like I'm smart though. You can have a very successful career in education and in life. Those test scores are one measure, but it is about the whole person now. And I think that's something that's becoming clearer and clearer, especially out of coronavirus. And you think about the things, because you guys have a front-facing, a site, a front-facing to consumer, a product where you're saying, hey, we're going to help you. Start with us. We'll take you through, this process. We'll help you through it. So you guys are really nurturing the whole person as a high school student even accesses your site in the first place, right? Because it isn't just about one thing or another. It is about this whole person concept, right?
Absolutely. And we believe very adamantly in the importance of college and four-year degrees, but we also understand the needs of the market and the need to serve as a resource for students who are still trying to determine what their pathway is. And so in that vein, we really are thinking creatively about how to continue to be a resource and continue to provide access to students well beyond kind of their test score, but other information that may be allowable or viewable to them about a whole portfolio that they're presenting, rather than just feeling like I am my test score. Students are way more than that, and we know this.
Somebody that's also way more than that is my co-host today, Dr. Michelle Cantu-Wilson, who I'm sure is ready to jump in.
Always. Nicole, so many of the things that you said resonated because you think about what we're trying to do with our students, which is get them into the workplace. And how do we evaluate those that we want to come into the workplace? We use a holistic process, don't we? We use resumes, we use portfolios, we use a face-to-face interview. So I really like the idea that you champion, holistic placement or, holistic evaluation, because it mirrors what life is going to be like. Students come in, and if it's a hard and fast number, yes or no, how does that prepare them adequately for what they're going to experience in the workplace when things are so flex nowadays, especially. So what have you been most surprised by as we switch to this test optional?
I think what has been most surprising to us as we've conducted quite a bit of research is just understanding that students still want to test. And so we're thinking, students because I am a former enrollment manager and a former director of admissions, there's that side of the coin. But I think what we've noticed over this last couple of years is that, and I'll just kind of share a little bit about when all of us were trying to pivot and still provide opportunities for students to learn in environments during the pandemic virtually. Students still were taking the SAT. We tested 1.5 million students in the class of 2021.
Wow.
And although that isn't on par with what our testing rates and trends typically are, I think it still speaks volumes to the fact that if given the opportunity, if given the choice, students want to test, see how they do, and then make a decision about whether or not, again, they're putting that score forward as a part of their academic portfolio. So I think that has surprised me quite a bit in as we are all navigating this test optional world, both colleges, universities, and K-12, and obviously the College Board trying to continue to be a resource in that discussion for students, for families as well, as they make their decisions about testing.
So the thing that I'm interested in is really the AccuPlacer regarding for Texas, the TSIA for developmental education students. So I want to go there eventually. Do you want to ask more about the SAT topic we're covering right now before I dive into that?
Is that question to me?
Yes.
I've never been asked a question on my own podcast. I will defer to your expertise here, Michelle. Thank you. Let me hit the air horn just for your expertise. Please go ahead.
Joe, it's called respeto. You are the host.
Get out of
here. Okay, so Nicole, my background is developmental education. And so that AccuPlacer is something that I'm very familiar with. And because of your amazing background in student services, talk to me about the power of differential placement. That's what we call it in developmental ed, right? I know that I saw on the side that, holistic placement, but we call it differential because we're evaluating a lot of things when we're determining whether a student is going to go into, developmental education sequence or into some kind of a co-requisite class, where they can cover both DevEd and credit-bearing courses at the same time. How powerful do you think that is for the student?
Oh, incredibly powerful. As you well know, Acuplacer test scores provide really vital information about a student's current skill set. But it doesn't necessarily tell the whole story. And so to get a complete picture of a student's abilities, we typically recommend considering multiple factors, as we've kind of discussed during this entire conversation. Acuplacer supports the use of both academic and non-academic information to determine appropriate placement recommendations. And so the best practice for placing students into college level courses is by using a variety of those indicators and factors. And some of those academic factors are obviously their high school GPA, SAT, or end of course exams, transfer or prior learning credits, as I know you're very familiar with in your work. And then perhaps some of those non-academic factors are non-cognitive assessments, those results, and then attitudinal variables, so study habits, social skills, et cetera. So I think that for students and them understanding about their current placement and what their potential is, Acuplacer really provides them and counselors in colleges with a more complete picture, and one that supports the necessary intervention with recommendations as well for students and support in the areas that they may need. So I think it is of benefit to the student and also to those who work with students on a daily basis.
And what are you seeing nationally in regard to the effects of the pandemic on Acuplacer scores? Because we know that across the country, we know that the population of DevEd students has increased, right? Mm-hmm. We've certainly seen that in Texas, which is inconvenient because we've moved to a co-requisite model, right? But are you seeing those impacts on your internal data of student scores in math, reading, and writing?
So that is, the Acuplacer specifically is not an area that's under my portfolio. And so I can't speak to that specifically, but what I'll tell you, and this is not Nicole as a College Board employee, but just Nicole living in the world and having students that I still work with, colleagues that are still very much in higher ed. I don't know how any of us have not been impacted in some way by the pandemic, particularly in the academic learning environments. And so if I were to kind of make my own assertions, I would absolutely say that all of us in every facet of society have been impacted. And I think we're just all trying to figure out how to cope with maybe learning loss and assist those students with returning back to a space where they are confident and ready to get back into that environment and be successful.
Yeah, learning loss, that's a really important point. We should talk about that just for a second because, I know most people in higher education will stay updated, read articles and so on. We know that there's, as an enrollment manager myself, an enrollment cliff, less high school graduates now or over the next couple of years than there ever will be. Everybody's freaking out. And then you see some articles come out and people say, well, there's not really an enrollment cliff. It's more like an enrollment plateau. And there's just lots of data out there, but there isn't high school graduate growth in terms of the number of students who are coming out of high school, right? That's for sure. Whether it's a decline or a plateau, that you could argue that all day. But students also, there's a lot of taking a gap year. A lot of are coming back to college for the first time. There's first gen students who maybe didn't go right into college because of coronavirus. And now they're starting this journey kind of again, right? I bring this up because we're having this big thing at Lindenwood, and it's supposed to be all juniors, but there's a bunch of seniors coming because they didn't get to go last year. and you get these overlapping things that there's just like these lost years for kids. How important is College Board, and how focused have you guys been in re-engagement of sort of I would say lost generation, but a lost focus maybe on pathway to education? That was a really long, complicated, nonsensical question, Nicole. I hope you made sense of it and that you could do something with it.
I did, Joe. I think I was able to
It's actually pretty amazing.
dissect a little bit.
If you downloaded that, it's actually pretty amazing.
Yahoo!
So I'll speak to a point that I think is really compelling in all of this. We've learned that we need to do more. And one of the ways in which we have expanded resources, I spoke just a little bit, but I'd like to dive a bit more into that, is with BigFuture. BigFuture allows us to really help as much as possible, help students and families. And it's really powered by colleges and universities who are our members, where we have really a plethora of objective information to empower students and families on the path to life after high school. So what we've been able to do is reposition BigFuture as a guide to help students to plan for college, pay for college, and to explore careers. And I know that many times when we think about assessment, in it particularly related to the SAT, it is kind of equivalent to like SAT and then 4-year college. That's what the thought and mindset has been. But we've shifted and expanded that to understand, again, as I think I alluded to earlier, that obviously that's not every student's path, but we want to be a resource, and BigFuture can be that resource for students. So we've redesigned BigFuture, and it will constantly evolve over time to better serve students. But what it really does is it provides a personalized guiding individual students to their next action that they can take right away. So for example, they're taking an interest in assessing careers. They can go into the dashboard and it shows them what they've done already at this point on the path to college and career, along with what they should do next to maintain that momentum. And I think that's one of the ways that we have really been thoughtful and incredibly strategic about how we still serve students who've had such a, dare I say, kind of like experienced trauma during this last couple of years, to get back focused, get back really ready to take the next steps on their lives. So BigFuture is an excellent tool for that process.
Hey everybody, head over to www.edupexperience.com, our website, where you're going to find all of the episodes that we've recorded categorized so that you can ensure that you're spending your time listening to the podcasts that are most important to you. You're going to see the reviews of our podcasts, the shows in our network, our partners, and a section on starter episodes. If you're new to the EdUp experience, listen to those starter episodes and get a feel for how the podcast has evolved over time and our impact in the world. www.edupexperience.com. Yeah, that sounds like an amazing tool, and access is so important. But in speaking of which, Michelle, I don't actually know if you've partaken in my games before here at the EdUp Experience. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't.
Listen to your games.
You have. Well, you're going to play one today, Nicole. We do like a little bit of a mid-episode break, as we like to say here at the EdUp Experience. We're going to play a little game. This is called Higher Ed Word Association with your contestants today, Nicole Gibbs and Michelle Cantu-Wilson. This is where, Nicole and Michelle, I'm going to give you a word, a higher ed associated word, and you're going to tell me the first word or phrases or groups of words that come to your mind, and feel free to elaborate. Are you guys ready?
Ready.
Let's do it.
If you said no, I'm not sure. I think the game would go on anyway.
He doesn't care. He doesn't care.
Yeah, we're going to just do it.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go. Michelle, we're going to lead with you first because, of course, our guest needs time to prepare because we just put her on the spot. We're going to go with you first. Here we go. Future of work.
Multifaceted.
Okay.
I think individualism is reemerging, and students are, especially Gen Z, they are becoming more critically aware of their own pathways and their desire to be somewhere in life where they are finding joy and not just working. So I think it's multifaceted.
Very well said. Nicole, future of work.
I think the future of work, the word that I first think of is innovation. There are so many opportunities for students to create their own work, if you will. We think about social media and how those who are very young to those who are maybe not so young have really created platforms and brands and companies, et cetera, to, I think, redefine what we have believed work to be. And I think that is amazing to really combine passion with innovation. So.
Well done. Okay.
I was going to say that too.
Yeah, me too.
That was amazing. Way to go, Nicole.
The next one goes to Nicole first, and then Michelle. Here we go. Elitism in higher education.
I think the first word that comes to mind when I think about that phrase is dated. And I say that because, and probably a lot of my responses are thinking about the current generation. I think that there are so many barriers that are being broken, and a lot of exposing that has happened. And I think reckoning as well with American higher education, American education in total. And so I would say dated.
That's a good one. Boy, that's a tough act to follow. Michelle Cantu-Wilson, elitism in higher education.
I want two things. One, please find a sound effect for an eye roll, because I would like to request one for that question.
The best I got is, let's see. I got a whistle.
No,
That's
you can
not gonna
find
do it.
something better. I need you to do research, Joe.
do it.
This is the EdUp experience with over how many, over 100,000 downloads?
Yeah,
Has to
125
be
actually.
something. There you go. So it's useless. Elitism doesn't have a place in modern society. Perhaps it was useful to some class or some group of people at some point, but that's not the world that we live in anymore. And the idea of dividing people into classes so that one group is looking down on another, it just doesn't have a place anymore. And if you're in the classroom, you know that, because you see the way that students treat each other with such respect and with such care and concern. It's happening. You know, the world is changing rapidly and students are leading the way. So I don't think it has a place
Love the
anymore.
passion. Love the passion there.
You
Okay.
know it.
Next one goes to Michelle first, and Nicole follow. The word is access, Michelle.
Access does not equal success. That is not my term. Somebody else came up with it, and I have really believed in it. It's not enough. Access is not enough. There has to be intentionality around how we are making students feel welcome on a college campus, how we are making sure that everyone has ownership of the institution that they are paying to attend, and how the community finds a place at the institution. I'm very proud of the work that in particular Robert Vela is doing at San Antonio College. He's a friend, and I
Shout out to
love how
Robert.
he says, you know, we own our backyard. And I think that's very, very important. I know a lot of colleges are following suit. So remember, everybody, access does not equal success. You have to do more.
Nicole, access.
Wow. Yeah, that is tough to follow. I think about the digital SAT, when I think about access. And as you well know, we made an announcement in January about taking the SAT digital. And so that's how I correlate access.
The crowd just won't sit down there, Nicole, for you. Okay, the next one and last one goes to Nicole first, and Michelle gets to follow a really hard answer that Nicole will give. The word is belonging, Nicole.
Oh, yeah, of course, the last one, Joe, you stumped me almost there. But what comes to mind when I think about belonging is I think about culture. And I think this is appropriate in every sector of education, that the culture should really be a culture of belonging for every student, every educator, any parent, any family, that they are a part of that community, and that all of the educators are there to wrap their arms around the students to help them become successful, whether that is attending college or going into a career pathway.
Okay, Michelle, tough one. Belonging.
It was tough, but at least I had a second to hear some of her ideas. So I think for belonging, what I would like for institutions to remember is start with your faculty and staff. Start internally in making sure that everyone who works at the institution has that sense of belonging. Because if they feel that way, that translates into the classroom, that translates into spaces where students occupy or spaces that students occupy. So start with making sure that faculty and staff feel like they're a part of the institution, that they have a voice. And then when you do the student level work, just remember that nothing bad is going to happen if you care about students too much.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, another episode of Higher Ed Word Association with your contestants, Nicole and Michelle, who both won nothing but passion came flying. Michelle, I'll pass it over to you for more questions for Nicole.
I did have another question. Let me see if I can find. Oh, so my question was kind of just as you're evaluating all of the products that you offer to students and to colleges, what is a space that you would like to get into, or where would you like to see, where would you like to see College Board move forward more boldly? What's on the horizon? And you don't have to reveal any trade secrets or anything like that.
Thank
But
you.
you could if you want. You could if you want to. Here on the EdUp Experience Live. Okay, go ahead.
To be honest, I think that we're on the cusp of that right now, and it's what I just mentioned in the word association game. Really, how much of a game changer I believe the digital SAT will be for students and for families. And again, that access piece, which is critical because it is very core to our mission. I think during the pandemic, we've been challenged, like many companies, universities, colleges, organizations, to do more. And this is our way of ensuring that students have access to tests. So I think that's one area. Another area is that we announced a new AP exam in African American Studies. And so this is another opportunity to really certainly be more inclusive and having students have the opportunity to reflect what they know in the classroom in a way that it provides a sense of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I think those are two ways where we've thought very intentionally about where we could make an impact. And particularly my work is with the CRA team, and that's specific to the SAT program. But throughout the organization, there are so many things happening. I mentioned BigFuture, which is, again, another opportunity to expand our resources. So long answer to a short question.
That's what we like to do here. Yeah, go ahead, Michelle. Keep going.
Great answer. I really like the idea of the big future because one of the things that came up in a focus group that I did the other day for Texas Pathways was a student saying, you know, we graduate and then there's no like, and then they're talking about from community college, graduate from community college, and what's next? Like, who guides that? That's it? That's all I get? So I'm on my own? You know, we're not ready for that. So I see that you are owning the transition, and that's a phrase that Dr. Joe May from Dallas College coined one day that I heard him speak. So really, you're doing the work that is necessary, not just between high school and college, but also between community college and university into the workplace. There are transitions where students do feel alone. And I feel like BigFuture is onto something really big. It's a great name. Yeah, really good work.
That's called incredible insight. The BigFuture is big. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
One last question I wanted to ask you, Nicole, is just about finding college, right? So one of the big things that I think high school students struggle with, parents struggle with, is what is the right college? Where is the right college? How is the right college? What should, you know, now there's online, now there's a hybrid, now there's different ways to experience college than there was before, and College Board's at the front end of that, you know, kind of a gateway. How do you match up interest with, I don't know, modality, with flexibility now that maybe it wasn't as a particular choice as it, maybe that's not the right word, but maybe as not a robust of a choice as it was before, and how I want to learn that might be different than what I thought. How do you guys adapt and flex on matchmaking, so to speak?
I like that matchmaking. I really like that a lot. I believe, again, and certainly not to be repetitive, but I think that's the intent of BigFuture. I think that is because it is such a vast tool that really is. It's getting to know me if I'm a high school student and I am really confused about what the next steps are for me. Then utilizing this platform, first, it's getting to know who I am as a student, how I perform, what my interests are, and then it creates sort of this individualized plan. Now, I do want to just be very clear that we know that students' interests change. Certainly, the person I am as a junior has changed by the time that I'm a senior, but it is nimble enough to really create those and change as the students change. So I believe that BigFuture, once a student goes on to the site and signs up for that and goes through the proper prompts, et cetera, includes their information, it really is what I believe to be, I think, our next big resource for college planning. And also not just for students, but for educators as well, to help them advise students on the next steps. As we know, I mean, this is a process that is involved. There are parents, other family members, college counselors, high school friends who also play a large part in what a student believes to be their next step in their education experience. But I think that BigFuture is one critical part that at least can provide the foundational pieces to have the larger conversations with those other entities.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. And you just named off all the influencers too, right? Like, so there's so many people that influence somebody's journey along the way. And the more resources you can provide to help somebody zero in so to speak, on a target college. It's it's hard. It's hard to sometimes harder than it should be to find select a college and all of the things that go into that, and money and time, and there's just a lot there. There is a lot, and we want to ask you our final two questions. But before I do, Michelle, do you have any other you want to slide in for Nicole?
No, sir. That last description of BigFuture and what it does is just really reassuring, especially the idea that hopefully that students can retake. They can take it more than one time. We know that that's useful for the TSIA and AccuPlacer, and it's useful in other, personality assessments and things like that connect to students to careers. So good work there. I'm excited about that product.
We ask our guests the same two questions to end every episode. Nicole, here we go. Number one. What did we not say about College Board that you would like to say? Anything that's going on, any announcements that you haven't told anybody else yet that you want to tell our audience here in the EdUp experience? No pressure, of course. Any events you're speaking at, really plug away with a website, anything you want to add first. And then second to that, what do you see as the future of higher education?
So the first response that I have to your first question is there's so much coming with College Board in the next year. We made the announcement about the digital SAT in January, and we will launch the first administration in spring of 2023 internationally, and then spring of 2024 domestically. So what I would encourage the audience to do is to visit our website, collegeboard.org, and please lean into understanding what the next steps are so that you can help advise students, assist families with this exciting new iteration of the SAT. The other thing that I would say is that I am on a tour at this point, a conference tour, probably coming to a city near you. So if you happen to attend any of the regional ACAC conferences, then I may see you there. And really, it's an opportunity for folks to come and listen more specifically to learn about the digital SAT. And Joe, the second question, I believe, is what is the future? What do I see?
What do you see as the future of higher ed? You got it.
I believe that higher ed is absolutely here to continue to do what it's been doing, which is provide opportunities for students to learn both academically, socially, learn in co-curricular environments so that they can contribute positively to society. And I believe that that will continue. What I do think, though, is that over the last 2 years, we've seen a dramatic shift in the way that learning can be successfully delivered. And I believe that that is also becoming a mainstay. We know, and I say we because I am part of the higher ed family formerly, we know that higher ed is not always the quickest to pivot and to shift. And so it takes, it takes some time. But I think that out of unfortunate situations, sometimes that's when creativity is at the height. And so I believe that we've seen, and this is not specific to higher ed, but certainly because that's what we're focused on, I think American education in totality really has moved mountains over the last 2 years. And I think that if we continue with the momentum of what we've been able to do as educators, I think that the future is incredibly bright for higher ed.
I love it. But however, I'm just going to challenge you on this quickness and speed of higher ed. I'm going to need you to take that comment to a committee and let me know what you come out with and see how many people approve that before we bring that here to the audience.
Happy to do it.
Let me know. I'll talk to you in September. Let me know how that goes.
Sure. There you go.
It's been such a pleasure to have you here, Nicole. Just incredible insights. The work the College Board does is amazing. We know how important just getting students interested in colleges and giving them the ease of pathway to experience it and how and what, all those things are important. One of the most important things that I've done today and best things I've done today is bring along my co-host here. Her name is Dr. Michelle Cantu-Wilson. And wherever you find her, wherever you see her, whatever conference you may run into her, if you see an air horn, grab it and spray that sucker in celebration of her.
Thank you, Joe.
Michelle,
Thank you for
I swear.
putting that out on a national basis.
If somebody finds you at a conference and you hear an air horn, you're going to know it came from this EdUp, and that will be amazing.
And you will bail them out of jail for when I kick them.
Oh, that's great. And of course, Nicole, it was a pleasure to have you. Thank you for coming on the EdUp Experience.
Oh no, the pleasure was absolutely mine. This was delightful. Very much enjoyed it. Would love to come back anytime.
Here she is, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Nicole Gibbs, Senior Director, External Engagement, College Readiness and Assessments at the College Board. You've just EdUp'd.